How long did it take you to become decent at poker? If you want to play poker, there are like different levels to the game, and being decent at poker means like different things depending on what you're talking about. In terms of like learning how to play the game and like learning how to do all of the like correct actions and understand what's going on, you can learn that in a day. If you want to be like good enough to have fun in real life, like at a casino, in low stakes games, like 2-5 and below, you can probably learn that in a couple of weeks if you study, like enough to not lose all your money. You just have to learn like very basic play styles. If you want to be like a winning player online, that could take you months or years, depending on how much studying you're doing. I don't know how hard it is. I think to win online today is probably pretty difficult. It's going to be like a full-time job. And then for tournaments, it's all luck anyway. Who cares? But I don't know. It probably varies depending on the tournament.
It is pretty clear here just how absolutely abysmal this is for performance.
What's up, guys? CJ here.
So Daniel Negreanu a fan of yours? I don't know. He was always my favorite poker player growing up just because of all the TV stuff. I think he only follows me or likes my stuff because of the Israel stuff, though. So I don't know.
Now, in my last video on this topic, I mentioned that, so unless anything new comes out that I think I can bring my unique perspective to, I'm going to put pirate software behind me and just keep moving forward. One of Thor's criticisms of that video, when he wasn't busy trying to smear me as a grifter...
It's just another, like, YouTube grifter trying to fight for relevance, dude. That's all that shit is.
Despite the fact that my channel has been consistent for the past 5 years, is that I wasn't specific enough.
You can review languages, many concepts are transferable. Concepts can be transferable, but specifics are not, and that's the problem.
Today's video sponsor is me. I built this platform called getcracked.io, which focuses on covering everything that is not lead code related to the technical interview for languages like Python, Rust, C++. That involves concepts like language knowledge, networking, operating systems, concurrency, computer architecture, etc. As you can see, we have over 600 problems that will really test and sharpen your skill set. Check it out. And so I figured maybe I can look for new information that I can bring my unique perspective to. Other creators, including myself, have covered the code snippets that he has shared publicly on stream. And so I thought to myself, wouldn't it be nice if I can address Thor's critique by finding code that he's written off stream to really get into the details? So I decided to scour Pirate's website on the Wayback Machine.
Am I crazy, or is his audio like very slightly sped up or something? It sounds like a little bit weird, right? Or I can't tell if it's just like the mic or something, just like a tiny bit.
Its website on the Wayback Machine, and notice that he actually included his source code resources as early as 2018. Just to be clear,
it feels like this dude is milking the topic. LOL, maybe an unfair criticism, but the difference of views is what's crazy between the pirate software stuff and any other ones. I mean, that's pretty common. I think the biggest issue is that, in a way, it's kind of like there's this concept called cultural appropriation. Okay. So generally, I feel like when people talk about cultural appropriation, they talk about, oh, white people have taken something from somebody else's culture and now it's cool, and now the other people feel bad about it or whatever. And I think it's kind of a retarded concept. But I think that there are some times where you can feel actually ass-pained about like cultural appropriation. So for instance, if there's something that some minority does for a long time, let's say it's like having saggy pants, okay? And it's like ubiquitously looked upon in white or wealthy culture as being a sign of being a trashy loser. Like, oh God, look at this black guy, can't even pull his pants up. What a fucking loser. And then all of a sudden, because some, Justin Bieber or some celebrity, bites some style from the black community and starts wearing it, and now everybody's doing it. And now it's like, oh shit, this is actually fucking awesome. I'm sympathetic towards people from minority cultures being like, hold on. We've been doing this shit for decades or years, and you guys have roasted us for it. And now when some white celebrity popularizes it, now all of a sudden it's fucking cool? Fuck you. That's bullshit. I think that's kind of... I'm sympathetic towards people who argue about cultural appropriation from that aspect. So, that being said, if you do like coding stuff or whatever for a long time and nobody gives a fuck, or people call you a nerd or a loser or whatever, and then this one guy comes along, Thor, and pretends or masquerades as this master programmer coder, And now he's getting all this attention, but like all the advice and stuff he gives seems like kind of not good. And he's probably lied significantly about his background, and he definitely overhypes his abilities to program. I can see why people would be jumping on this, like, well, hold on here, to be super critical of it. I think that's fair.
His source code resources as early as 2018. Just to be clear, these are the resources for his demo version of Heartbound. I was able to extract the code that he's written using data.win and the Undertale mod tool, and I'd like to focus on that for today's code review. Now, I know that a lot of people might be thinking, why are you doing a review on old code? Well, I decided to compare that 2018 version of the code that Thor himself distributed with the code available in the demo version of Heartbound, and at least at the places that I found major issues, there wasn't any difference. Now, I also want to stress that this video is going to be made in line with my own values as a developer. That being that we are reviewing mistakes so that others can learn from them. And in doing so, I will be providing alternative solutions. That doesn't mean that my solutions are the best improvement that can be made or a silver bullet that can apply in every scenario. But it will give you an idea for a general direction that you might want to take your own project in case you encounter similar issues throughout your development. Now, I'm going to be categorizing issues in this review based off their priority or severity, rather. So we're going to be starting with large or major issues, then going to medium or intermediate issues, and then ending off with small or minor issues.
Yeah, true. Black people got white people back on that bullshit. Because back in the day, watching anime and shit was cringe as fuck. But then all of a sudden, when black people start making YouTube videos of Dragon Ball Z and shit, now all of a sudden it's super cool. Not cool. Not cool, okay? We don't approve. Anime is for white people, all right? And maybe Asians. But not black people. That's ours. That's our thing.
So, let's get into it. I want to start by observing his lighting engine by taking a look at the file drawLight. Let's take a look at this drawLight method and hone in on the first case statement. Let's break down at a high level what's going on here. Thor loops over every pixel in a sprite, checking if each pixel touches or overlaps with a certain object. If it does, it then applies a light effect repeatedly, and with each repeat, it makes that light fade more diffuse. He then draws said colored pixels at that location to simulate the light fall off. Now, let's say your sprite is 128 by 128 pixels. That's 16,384 position checks he's doing per frame per light source. If he has multiple light sources or is trying to run at 60 FPS, you will feel the lag. Now, he actually checks collisions twice for each pixel, and he doesn't have any early exit should his second instance of that check not execute. If light diffuse is 5, it's possible that he does an additional 4 iterations that returns false every single time. In the case that we have the exact same 128 by 128 pixel sprite, that is not just 16,384 checks. That's 98,304 checks at worst. What's worse is if you observe the second case, where light comes from the right instead of the left, you'll notice that Thor copied and pasted the entire left code into the right code's case. Notice that as if you observe the second case, 98,304 checks at worst. What's worse is if you observe the second case, where light comes from the right instead of the left, you'll notice that Thor copied and pasted the entire left code into the right code's case, only changing the signage of light distance. What he could have done here is handled both right and left in the same case and simply applied the signage to light distance based off the direction of the light, and also applied the direction in which we iterate in the for loop differently based off that same signage.
Wait, am I just... Okay, I'm only going to do this because this guy watches my channel sometimes. I don't know if it's appropriate for me to give video feedback or not. I don't know. I don't care. I will say that already this video is a lot better than the last one where he's critiquing it because he's actually giving real critiques. I think it would be nice for... I guess it depends on what the expected audience is for your videos. But when you're breaking down stuff like this, even though it seems elementary for you, it'd be nice to walk through just like real quick, like what do each of these things do? And then explain it. And then it gives a better foundation for the viewer to understand what's going on. Like I'm assuming for him, he probably knows exactly what's going on for all of this shit. But I imagine a lot of viewers probably don't. I know I don't. So it would probably help to do that just as a random thing if he's watching, if he watches.
What's worse is if you observe the second case, where light comes from the right instead of the left, you'll notice that Thor copied and pasted the entire left code into the right code's case, only changing the signage of light distance. What he could have done here is handled both right and left in the same case and simply applied the signage to light distance based off the direction of the light, and also applied the direction in which we iterate in the for loop differently based off that same signage. How do we improve upon the code here? Well, we really don't. We throw it out in favor of layers, surfaces, and shaders. I decided to bring on a game dev who has years of experience in GameMaker, working not only on his own hobby projects, but also as a contractor for a studio in order to explain this fundamental concept.
Just draw a little diagram. This is basically how his code works. Is he has a sprite that basically looks something like this. This is sort of like a beam shape, kind of what you'd expect from like a beam of light. For every pixel in the sprite, so each one of these is a pixel, it's basically going in the draw event and doing a collision check at like each pixel. And it's basically checking and checking and checking. And if the pixel is on the sprite, it'll draw it. This is the starting point over here. And the farther away the pixel is from the starting point, it like blends it differently, and that'll create some kind of gradients. But yeah, this is a terrible way of doing it. I drew, like 5 pixels here. This is like super scaled up. A sprite like this would be like hundreds and hundreds of pixels. And to check each of them on the X and the Y like coordinate, like every single frame for every single like object doing this is going to be like abysmal for performance. The way that I had suggested would be better is you have the sprite, same one, and also any other sprites you want to do this with. So keep in mind, if you're using this system, every single other object that's like a light beam or whatever is going to have to run this code like independently of each other. With this method, all the objects at once, let's say you just have some random other objects over here that you also wanted to be light sources or something, I guess. All of them at once can draw themselves onto a surface. And a surface is basically a picture almost, it's just made of pixels. You can make them any size you want, but in this case, all we'd have to do is make the surface the size of the camera. This would basically just be starting point wherever the camera is in the room, right here. And these are all the objects that the camera would be seeing. We would just create a white surface, basically, just a surface that is just completely opaque. And these objects will draw themselves onto the surface. And before they do that, they'll set their GPU blend mode to subtract. So what that does basically is if I were to draw like this square here onto this white surface while the GPU mode is in subtract, it'll basically just erase right here. Like it'll take a chunk out of this white surface basically. And this area here will be like transparent on the surface. Like the pixels will have an alpha of 0, meaning you'll just be able to see through them basically. So all these objects just need to draw themselves onto this white surface. And this basically makes it like, it's kind of like they're like little cutouts basically. And then what you do is you have a separate surface, and this is very common. A lot of lighting systems will use a surface like what I'm about to describe, where it's just completely like transparent, and then any light sources or gradients or light beams, whatever, draw themselves onto this surface. Most lighting systems you'll see, unless they're using shaders, they'll usually use a surface like this, where they will draw any lights. Think of this as like a gradient. Draw any lights they want just onto this surface, basically. Usually they'll use some fancy stuff with blend modes and all that to make it look good. Literally doesn't matter here. And then what you do is you take this surface, you set the blend mode to subtract again, and you draw it on top of this surface. So you set the target surface to this one, and then you draw this surface on top of it, basically. And that will result in this surface. I guess I'll draw the result surface here. It'll basically result in only the...
Okay, this is way too much.
Basically.
I don't care.
Which actually
File that he refers to. If character 1 has a 2D dialogue array, this adds a lot of bloat to your code, makes it less navigatable, and also it limits scalability.
Okay, listen. Just to radar for the 50 millionth time, I don't know anything about programming, but I feel like anytime you open somebody's code, if you've got like a whole bunch of fucking like this shit going on over and over and over again, I feel like you're probably making a mistake, but I don't know if that's a good heuristic or not. But Bayzed.
Pirate structures dialogue in this game. Now, the way that he does so is via a 2-dimensional array called dialogue array, similar to the 1-dimensional array that he had for his event timeline. For every single language and every scene, he checks in a GML file that contains this 2D dialogue array. This adds a lot of bloat to your code, makes it less navigatable.
Would you get that Brian GigaChad on peers by not doing the full cuck disavowal of your edgy tweets? Yeah, I was going to send him a DM actually. He played, I don't know if you'd say good cop, bad cop, but he did that really well. I was worried he was going to fucking throw me under the bus and be like, well, I wouldn't be edgy like Destiny is or whatever. But he did it was a really good one too, having him there. Holy shit.
And also it limits scalability. So as you can see here, each language in each scene has its own file. He also has another 2D array called voice list. Now, the first index of voice list is character, and the second is the emotion that that character feels. As you can see, if character 1 has emotion 2, well, then this is the sound file that he refers to. If character 1 has emotion 19, well, then I guess this magic number just needs to do. Now, how did I know that the first index is the character and the second is the emotion? Well, I wouldn't know just by looking at this. I would have to search for voice list, and it just so happens that this is the only part of his code where I'm able to tell that the first index is character index, and the second index is the selected emotion for that character. What I would do, instead of checking in these files, would be to ship them with my game
Kind of doing any events with BDC? I don't know. I don't know if he's an events kind of guy. Maybe we'll see in the future. I don't know.
Local files and assets. I would then partition the dialogue assets by localization. Notice how in my chapter1.json file, we have scenes, and scenes has multiple keys, each the name of a particular scene. We start off with Book Dream Intro, which was the name of one of his files that contained a bunch of dialogue. We then go through every dialogue within the list of Book Dream Intro. Each of those nodes contains a speaker, a dialogue ID, a text, a motion, volume, replies, and optionally a next scene if we need to move forward. Speaker will pull up the sprite for Ralph. Dialogue ID can be used to reference said dialogue node later. Text is what we display on screen. Emotion relates to the voice that's being used. We also have an optional list of replies. By optional, I mean it can either be empty or it can contain several nodes. Each one of those nodes contains a text and a next scene. So once a user selects one of those nodes, for example, selects the no you didn't, the next scene moves on to the denial response. As you can see, the denial response scene also has its own separate speaker, text, dialogue ID, volume, replies, and pushes you to the next scene. There's really 101 ways to build up on what I just suggested. None of what I mentioned includes obfuscation or saving of dialogue options, but it's better than what exists currently. In fact, it's probably the bare minimum you'd expect from somebody.
Was that lightning or did something just explode?
With 8 years of experience in Game Maker. Now let's move on to the minor category. There are several things I'd like to bring up, and I'll try to do so as quickly as possible. My first criticism is useless code. Thor's code is littered with it. Take a look at this case, for example. It contains a switch statement that switches on an object index, but doesn't actually do anything with that index. Instead, it defaults to the damage polarity, either 1 or -1. I've never seen anybody write code like this. Interns that I've mentored, junior developers, it's just really odd and doesn't do anything. A static code analyzer will most likely pick up on this. Many IDEs either come with them built in or support third-party static code tools, so if you're not already using one, consider doing so. You'd also think that a game as art-rich as this would have some sort of color palette instead of just hard-coding colors. The next is unexplained constants. They are everywhere. I brought this up in my original video, and a lot of people said that the magic numbers I referred to weren't really magic numbers because you can use IntelliSense to tell what the actual parameter names are associated with those numbers. Putting aside the fact that nobody should need to hover over a method for 2 seconds to tell what the actual parameters stand for, let alone do this for over 20 methods, magic numbers in their purest form are everywhere in Thor's code. There's at least half a dozen in each file, maybe even more. Take a look at the 100 million here for active color, or the...
Okay. Thorbad, got it.
Like what Superman does here is his involvement in global affairs, like his moral compass causes others to also take action, causes others who have power to also take action. He literally makes people, he springs others into action. That's the whole point. That is the I don't know. I just saw like a lot of what I've tried to do with commentary in general, which is like to influence others to also do right and to defend vulnerable people and to show.
I can't even. I'm good on this.
And that's why blackmail is powerful. Well, then kill the people that are blackmailing you. You're the president. If you can't kill people that are blackmailing you as the president, I don't want you to be the president. Straight up. If you can't figure out a way to kill him, Bill Clinton did that.
What? But I mean, also based, yeah, true. If your position is there's a deep state, then it's like, okay, well, fine, you're the president and everything now, so you should control everything, so do what you need to do to clear it, right?
It's a high score take. What do you think every single powerful leader has done in the history of humankind?
True. Did you know that every single thing in history is like a fucking movie? Yes.
What do you what do you think that they did?
Mission Impossible movies. When my frat bros, 18, interrogate me 42, that I'm spending too much time with my wife and kids, so I have to explain I'm only visiting to check out my daughter's friends.
Okay, thank you very much. It's a honor, great honor, to have a friend of mine who's become very friendly over the last number of years. We knew each other before, but Mark is the head of NATO, Mark Rutte, Secretary General of NATO. Highly respected by everybody that knows him, but in particular the European countries. They have great reliance on him, and he's done a fantastic job. And we had a tremendous meeting, I guess it's about a month ago, And I think Mark will tell you that it was really perhaps more important the date of November 5th. That was the election day. Maybe that was the most important because we made tremendous progress together. And one of the reasons that you're here today is to hear that we are very unhappy. I am.
What's going on out there, buddy? God?
With Russia. But we'll discuss that maybe a different day. But we're very, very unhappy with them, and we're going to be doing very severe tariffs if we don't have a deal in 50 days. Tariffs at about 100%. You'd call them secondary tariffs. You know what that means. But today we're going to talk about something else. And as you know, we've spent $350 billion approximately on this war with Russia and Ukraine. And we'd like to see it end. It wasn't my war. It was Biden's war. It's not my war. I'm trying to get you out of it. And we want to see it end. And I'm disappointed in President Putin because I thought we would have had a deal 2 months ago, but it doesn't seem to get there. So based on that, we're going to be doing secondary tariffs if we don't have a deal in 50 days.
Fucking Putin, man.
It's very simple. And they'll be at 100%. And that's the way it is.
If my internet goes out, then I guess it's because of the storm. I don't know if that would knock my internet out or not, though.
Be more simple. It's just the way it is. I hope we don't have to do it. But regardless, we are going to be... we make the greatest military equipment in the world, whether it's missiles. You saw that recently in Iran, the way those planes flew in. They had every single 14 bombs at every target. Then you had the helicopter shoot a total of 30 bombs, 30 missiles. And they hit every single marker, is that right? Every single piece, every single target. And it was, I guess, on a scale of 0 to 10, they say it was about a 15. That's how successful it was. That's how lethal it was, a word they like to use nowadays. But it was an amazing, well-organized attack that people in this country wanted to do for 24 years. You know, when we had the pilots in last week, they were saying, sir, we've been practicing this for 24 years, meaning people, not them, but other people that are a little older now. But they too, and you were the one that let us do it. But we've been practicing it 3 to 4 times a year for 22, 24 years. Because they always knew they had to stop Iran from doing what they were doing, which is trying to come up with a nuclear weapon, a nuclear bomb. And we did it very successfully. And we make the best equipment, the best missiles, the best of everything. The European nations know that. And we made a deal today, and I'm going to have Mark speak about it, but we made a deal today where we are going to be sending them weapons and they're going to be paying for them. The United States will not be having any payment made. We're not buying it, but we will manufacture it and they're going to be paying for it. Our last meeting of a month ago was very successful in that they agreed to 5%, which is more than $1 trillion a year, so they have a lot of money. And these are wealthy nations. They have a lot of money, and they want to do it. They feel very strongly about it, and we feel strongly about it, too. We're in for a lot of money, and we don't want to do it anymore, and we can't. But we make the best, and we're going to be sending the best to NATO, and in some cases to maybe, at Mark's suggestion, if we go to Germany, where they're going to send early on missiles, and they'll be replaced, and NATO's going to take care of it. It's going to be coordinated by NATO, and they're going to work very much with Matt Whitaker, who's right here, who's a great ambassador, and Matt's going to be coordinating. You better do a good job, Matt.
I will.
But Matt's going to coordinate. He's a very talented guy. He's going to coordinate everything. So in a nutshell, we're going to make top-of-the-line weapons, and they'll be sent to NATO. NATO may choose to have certain of them sent to other countries where we can get a little additional speed, where the country will release something and it'll be mostly in the form of a replacement. And I'd like to have Mark, and again, just a highly respected, pretty young guy, for having had the career that he's had. Because he had an amazing career before going to NATO. So and we spent a lot of time together over the last couple of months. And if you could say a few words.
Absolutely. No, Mr. President, this is really big. This is really big. You called me on Thursday that you have taken a decision. And the decision is that you want to bring what it needs to have to maintain, to be able to defend itself against Russia, but you want the Europeans to pay for it, which is totally logical. And this is building on the tremendous success of the NATO summit. 5%, but also the decision to keep Ukraine strong and the decision to increase our defense industrial production. So based on that, that was Europe stepping up. This is again Europeans stepping up. So I've been in contact with many countries. I can tell you at this moment, Germany massively, but also Finland and Denmark and Sweden and Norway, United Kingdom, the Netherlands, Canada. They all want to be part of this. And this is only the first wave. There will be more. So what we will do is work through the NATO systems to make sure that we know.
What does NATO mean? It's the nuclear arms towards others alliance. And what that means is we point all of our nukes at other countries, baby.
What Ukrainians need, so if we can make packages. Of course, in a way, we discussed it this morning with Pete Hegseth at the Pentagon, in a way that, of course, the U.S. will...
Coincidentally, all of the nations just happen to be in the northern hemisphere around the Atlantic. And it's done in the form of an organized treaty.
Its stockpiles necessary to defend this country, that's absolutely clear. But it will mean that Ukraine can get its hands on really massive numbers of military equipment, both for air defense, but also missiles, ammunition, etc., etc. So if I was Vladimir Putin today, and you're speaking about what you were planning to do in 50 days, and this announcement, I would reconsider whether I should not take negotiations about Ukraine more seriously than I was doing at the moment, if I was Vladimir Putin. But when I'm Ukraine, I think this is really great news for that. So I really want to thank you for that. So at least Europeans paying for it. And again, I mentioned all these countries, we will deal with that. And exactly as you said, it might also mean that countries will move equipment fast into Ukraine, and then the US later backfilling it, because speed is of the essence here. So really, thank you. This is important.
You did a great job. It's a really great job. We've been very successful in settling wars. You have India, Pakistan, you have Rwanda and the Congo.
who is following this video. I mean, I don't know, bro. All of politics is boring as fuck right now. There's nothing to follow. Trump repeats the same sentences over and over again. There's nothing to be gleaned from any of these things. Trump is a fucking retard. You're never going to hear anything surprising or insightful or cool. You have some leader here who's trying his best to make Trump look good, and then people are going to ask him a bunch of dick-suck questions. He's going to respond equally retardedly to. It's just like everything in politics is so fucking like embarrassing and boring right now from the U.S. perspective. So I don't know.
That was going on for 30 years. India, by the way, there would have been a nuclear war within another week. The way that was going very badly. We did that through trade. I said, we're not going to talk to you about trade unless you get this thing settled, and they did. They were both great leaders, and they were great. But Rwanda and the Congo, that was going on for 30 years, and at least 7 million people killed with a lot of pretty rough weapons like machetes, heads chopped off, going on for many years. You couldn't even get near the countries. Nobody wanted to get near it, so frightening. And we got that one solved. Serbia, Kosovo, got that solved. That was going to be one that was going to happen. And again, that was something I used. I use trade for a lot of things, but it's great for settling wars. That was really very important. Marco is working very hard with everybody here on the Strip, the Gaza Strip. I call it the Gaza Strip, one of the worst real estate deals ever made. They gave up the oceanfront property, one of the worst deals ever made. But it was supposed to bring peace, and it didn't bring peace. It brought the opposite. But we're doing pretty well in Gaza. Steve Witkoff is here, and I think we could have something fairly soon to talk about. And we solved another one that we just seem to have, Armenia and Azerbaijan. It looks like that's going to come to a conclusion, successful conclusion. We worked on Egypt with a next-door neighbor who, it's a good neighbor, they're friends of mine, but they happened to build a dam which closed up water going into a thing called the Nile. I think if I'm Egypt, I want to have water in the Nile.
This is what like makes me feel so fucking crazy. I guess if you're narcissistic, you truly lack some level of self-awareness, and you actually mindfuck yourself into believing the stupid shit that you say. I remember, I don't think this is online anymore. I don't know if I can use a backup. When Mr. Girl thought that people were accusing Mr. Girl of manipulating Anna, and he was like, we absolutely didn't. And then here's the video of our call, and it was 2 minutes of Mr. Girl and Lav like crying to Anna, like, Dusty's gonna nuke our whole careers if you don't leak everything. You have to send us every single fucking message. And I was like, oh, I don't know if I want to do that. That seems like, and it's like, wow. And the question is like, how can you release this not knowing that, one, this is textbook manipulation, and two, it looks like it. Everybody else is going to view this as manipulation. You're insane. But like, somehow I guess narcissists are incapable of perceiving themselves in a non-distorted way, and they're incapable of how everybody else would perceive them as well. And it reminds me so much of like Elon Musk explaining, like I said, if you wanted to pay somebody off, to boost an account, that makes sense, fine. But why would you stream it and talk about the equipment?
Oh, dude, that question. I mean, it's just not. Beat this bull. 95. This is Thomas on with chaos. Bro, what's up? It's just kind of bad. Bro. Are you kidding?
Yeah, level 52 here.
Bro, Elon Musk is a fucking fraud, bro.
I don't know. Like, again, if you want to pay somebody to boost your account, sure. But why would you stream it thinking you could get away with that? You're so stupid. It's like this, the narc, and then I wonder the same about like Trump. Like, did Trump actually convince himself or allow other people around him to convince him that he actually is a respected leader in the world? That people actually were afraid of him, were actually scared of him, would do what he wanted, and he really thought that coming into office? Maybe he actually did. Like, that's just insane to me. And it's like so scary, the idea that you could have that level of narcissism, that you're incapable of understanding how other people perceive you. I don't know, man. That's crazy. Explain why Elon is wrong when explaining his gear. He's pointing to aspects of the gear that don't matter. Like, he's looking at gear that's like best in slot, amazing affinities, and saying stupid shit like, oh, it's a level 70 item, when it like didn't even matter. It was like a retard. It wasn't a retard analysis of the gear, but it was like he's an okay player, I guess, but not like a world top. It was just so stupid. The whole point of humility, it's not even about humility. It's about like, I'm talking about like, this is like distorted patterns of thinking. This is like actual cognitive distortions. I don't know. Maybe that's a hallmark of personality disorders. I don't know, but it's insane.
And we're working on that one. It's a problem, but it's going to get solved. They built one of the biggest dams in the world.
No, I have not watched Andor. Why do you keep spamming this in chat? No.
A little bit outside of Egypt. You know about that? You've been hearing about that one. And that turned out to be a big problem. I don't know. I think the United States funded the dam. I don't know why they didn't solve the problem before they built the dam. But
Or same thing with like Elon doing this thing now where he's like, oh, the America First Party. Lil bro, no one gives a fuck about you politically. You have no clue. Like, no one cares about you. No one likes you. You're not...
When the Nile River has water, it's a very important source of income in life. It's the life of Egypt. And to take that away is pretty incredible. But we think we're going to have that solved very quickly. So we do good. The only one we haven't been able to get to yet is Russia. I'm not happy. And I will tell you that Ukraine wants to do something. Again, it's a war that should have never started. If I were president, it never would have happened. I used to speak to President Putin about it a lot. It was the apple of his eye. But once I saw what was going on, I said, they're going to have a war here. I was outside. The election was rigged. And I was outside looking in. And I said, that thing's going to be a war. Couldn't believe it, because what Biden said was the exact opposite of what should have been said. And it started, and it's a real mess. We're losing, I guess they're losing 5,000 or 6,000 people. There's actually now more. I was saying 5,000. There's actually more now. Mostly soldiers, but a lot of people in cities and towns that are getting blown up to a horrible war. And it should be stopped. And so if it's not done, if we don't have an agreement in 50 days, that's what we're doing, secondary tariffs. And they're biting. And I hope we don't get to the point where we do. But I've been hearing so much talk. It's all talk. It's all talk, and then missiles go into Kiev and kill 60 people. It's got to stop. It's got to stop. But the purpose of this is to say that there's a very big deal we've made. This is billions of dollars worth of military equipment is going to be purchased from the United States, going to NATO, etc. And that's going to be quickly distributed to the battlefield. Ukraine will take it up. And say what you want about Ukraine. When the war started, they had no chance. And they still would have had no chance if the equipment they had the best equipment, because we do make the best planes and missiles.
Well, I guess it's just the same. I don't know how people... Oh, my God. I don't know, dude.
And we make the best military equipment in the world by far. And we have new things coming out that are beyond belief. And I'm very excited about the Golden Dome. It's going to give us very strong protection. We've already started that. But they
but also the infrastructure, whole city.
Could collapse, and heavy buildings then they collapse. And well, you think this is again a period of time. I think they'll forget. I've just really been involved in this for not very long, and it wasn't initial focus. This is a Biden war. This is a Democrat war, not a Republican or Trump war. This is a war that would have never happened. It shouldn't have happened. A lot of people being killed. When the final numbers come in, you're going to see a lot more people are being killed in this war than you think, than you've been writing about. It's a very deadly war. They're all bad, but this is a very deadly war. The numbers are going to be far greater. When an apartment house comes down, and they say 2 people were slightly injured. No, many people were killed, and those numbers will be at some point accurately reported. So far, they're not. It's a deadly war.
He's an actual, I don't even want to say midwit. He's actually fucking retarded, right? That statement of, you don't even know how many people are being killed, it's more than you write about. Everybody knows it's more than you write about. If Donald Trump really wanted, he could probably get access to the actual numbers by submitting an actual request to his intelligence department to say, hey, can you go ahead and cook up an estimate of how many people you think are actually dead in Ukraine? I bet they probably have a lot of great information. Probably access to more information than any other collection of anybody on the planet, except for maybe the Ukrainian military. Maybe they'd have more than them. He could actually do that. That's a real life thing that he could actually do. But he doesn't, because he's fucking retarded. He's actually fucking retarded.
I think that you're just going to see, I think you're going to see strong movement. I hope so. The secondary tariffs are very, very powerful.
What about the tariffs that the Republicans in the House and the Senate have ready? Those are 500%. Sure. Why are you doing 100%?
Well, the Republicans are moving very strongly in the Senate, giving us total control of it. But I'm not sure we need it, but it's certainly good that they're doing it. And Lindsey Graham's working hard. The whole Rick Johnson, all of them, they're all working hard. And they're in coordination with Mike Johnson, Speaker in the House. And I think they've actually crafted a pretty good piece of legislation. It's probably going to pass very easily. And that includes Democrats. And there's some little tweaks. But I don't want to say I don't need it, because I don't want them to waste their time. It could be very useful. We'll have to see. But we can do secondary. We're probably talking about 100% or something like that. We can do secondary tariffs without the Senate, without the House. But what they're crafting also could be very good.
So are you suggesting then that the Congress should move forward with those sanctions, the 500%, and that your 100 would be a separate additional package?
Yeah, I mean, the 500 is, sort of meaningless after a while, because at a certain point it doesn't matter. It's not going to be, 100. 100 is going to serve the same function. But, I have it at 100%. They may have it. I don't know what they're going to end up with. They may have it at 100 too. They may have it at 500. But they're doing some good work in the House, and I think in the House and the Senate. And as you know, they're coordinated. And they can have it done quickly. They said they'll have it as quickly as I need it. So we'll see. We're talking to him. In fact, John Thun's coming over later on to talk. Yeah, he's going to come over.
Is it your view that Vladimir Putin mischaracterized his dedication to? Is it your view that Vladimir Putin did not clarify his intention to a peace deal? And what happens now in the next phase? Is there?
We're going to see. I mean, we're going to go for a period of time. Maybe he'll start negotiating. I think I felt. I don't know about you, Mark, but I felt that we had a deal about 4 times. Mm-hmm. And here we are, still talking about...
And he did send 6 people to the negotiations. So I remember that you were able, with Marco Rubio and with Steve Witkoff, to get these talks going in Istanbul. Yep. I remember I was myself in Turkey for NATO business in May, and we really put pressure on the Ukrainians to send a senior team to Istanbul, and they did. But then the Russians came up with this historian, explaining history of Russia since 1250.
We thought, and I thought, we should have had a deal done a long time ago. But it just keeps going on and on and on. And, every night people are dying. A lot of Russian soldiers are dying, by the way. And a lot of Ukrainian soldiers too. But a lot of Russian soldiers.
100,000 Russian soldiers since 1st of January. Since January, 100,000 Russian soldiers dead since January. So if anybody in Moscow is listening to this, again, 100,000 dead Russians since January. This is what President Putin is doing at the moment.
Yeah, please.
Will these be Patriot missiles specifically, or Patriot batteries that you're planning?
It's everything. It's Patriots. It's all of them. It's a full complement with the batteries.
When do you expect it to arrive in Ukraine, sir?
Well, we're going to have some come very soon, within days, actually, because a couple of the countries that have Patriots are going to swap over, and we'll replace the Patriots with the ones they have, and Matt will coordinate with NATO. But so it's going to be, they're going to start arriving very soon.
This afternoon, Boris Pistorius, the German defense minister, is visiting Pete Hegseth, Secretary of Defense, and we'll discuss also, I think, on this whole Patriot thing. Norway is involved, so that's on the Patriots, but this whole deal is also about missiles or ammunition, so it's broader than Patriots.
We have one country that has 17 Patriots getting ready to be shipped. They're not going to need them for them. So we're going to work to deal where the 17 will go, or a big portion of the 17 will go to the war site.
Mr. President,
that could be done very quickly.
Mr. President,
could this transaction with NATO be viewed as a step towards achieving peace, letting Putin know that now Zelensky has a little bit more powerful tools in his tool chest, and maybe that brings him to the table to achieve peace? So I know that you want to do that.
Right, that's what we've been saying. I think he might have expressed it better.
That's what we've been saying, that giving Zelensky more weapons has the ability to bring Putin to the table. Really? Because I thought in the whole beginning we were saying that if we give him more weapons that there's going to be nuclear war and World War III and that'd be the worst thing ever. Like, there's not even any consistency from one month to the next. It's just the most random, brainless shit constantly.
I just want exactly what it was. Nice talking. I think he's done better than us. He's a very good guy, I can tell you that. But no, it's well said. Yeah, I think this is a chance of getting peace. Or it's just going to be the same thing. I have to tell you, Europe has a lot of spirit for this war. A lot of people, when I first got involved, I really didn't think they did. But they do. And I saw that a month ago, and you were there, most of you, many of you were there. The level of esprit de corps spirit that they have is amazing. They really think it's a very, very important thing to do, or they wouldn't be doing it. Look, they're agreeing to, just, they're paying for everything. We're not paying anymore. We have an ocean separating us. I said, we have a problem. We make the best stuff, but we can't keep doing this. And Biden should have done this years ago. He should have done it from the beginning, but he didn't. He didn't know he was there. This guy, what a horrible job they did to this country. And I just hope, between the border and this and so many other inflation, what a horrible administration. The worst administration in history, in my opinion. It's not my opinion.
9 times he brings up Biden's name. How long is he going to talk about Biden for?
I do want to make one statement. Again, I said it before. This is not Trump's war. We're here to try and get it finished, settled, whatever. Because nobody wins with this. This is a loser from every standpoint. This was Biden, and this was other people. And it's a very sad situation. This gentleman's doing a great job. I think he's going to get it, and Matt and everybody else.
I don't care about this. Log in. President Trump will announce a new plan to arm Ukraine on Monday that is expected to include offensive weapons. 2 sources with knowledge of the plans tell Axios. Sending offensive weapons would be a major shift for Trump, who had until recently been at pains to say he would provide only defensive weapons to avoid escalating the conflict. 2 sources told Axios they had reason to believe the plan was likely to include long-range missiles that could reach targets deep inside Russian territory, including Moscow. However, neither was aware of any final decision. Have you ever watched the Sean Ryan show with Newsom? Or are you watching it later? I don't know. How do you feel about Newsom appearing in these right-wing shows? I like Newsom's statements that he's making on his own. I haven't seen his appearance on any other right-wing shows or whatever.
We have a lot to get to this morning, so let's begin with Senator Lindsey Graham in Clemson, South Carolina, and Senator Richard Blumenthal in Bridgeport, Connecticut. They both just returned from Europe, where they met with Ukrainian President Zelensky. Good morning to you both, Senators.
Good morning.
Senator Graham, I want to start with you. Russia's escalating. They're not ending this war in Ukraine. NATO Secretary General is going to be here in Washington this week and will be meeting with President Trump, who is, according to our reporting, considering fresh funding for Ukraine. That would be the first time since he's taken office. What do you know about what is coming?
Well, I don't want to get ahead of the president, but I'm having dinner along with Senator Blumenthal and other senators with Secretary General Mark Rutte tomorrow night. A turning point regarding Russia invasion of Ukraine is coming. For months, President Trump has tried to entice Putin to the peace table. He's put tariffs against countries that allow fentanyl to come in our country, other bad behavior. He's left the door open regarding Russia. That door is about to close. Dick and
how are we enticing Russia? With what? What do the tariffs on other countries have to do? Are we tariffing other countries to entice Russia? That was the implication there. That would be really bad, but okay.
I have got 85 co-sponsors in the United States Senate for congressional sanctions with a sledgehammer available to President Trump to go after Putin's economy and all those countries who prop up the Putin war machine. China, India, and Brazil buy oil and petroleum products and other goods from Russia. That's the money Putin uses is to prosecute the war. Mm-hmm. And this congressional package that we're looking at would give President Trump the ability to impose 500% tariff on any country that helps Russia and props up Putin's war machine. He can dial it up or down. He can go to 0 to 500. He has
Why don't you do 5,000?
Ability, but we're going after the people who keep Putin in business and additional sanctions on Russia itself. This is truly a sledgehammer available to President Trump to end this war.
Senator Blumenthal, on those sanctions, the president said he expects the Senate to pass this measure you put together. And he described being able to terminate it as totally at my option. It very respectfully lets the president do whatever he wants and decide whether or not to exercise it. I know that has raised some concerns among your fellow Democrats like Senators Kaine and Senator Coons. How do you assure them that this is as tough as you promise?
This has to be a critical moment for these sanctions, and bringing down this sledgehammer at this moment was emphasized by all of the European allies who were at the meeting that Senator Graham and I attended in Europe. They are absolutely in solidarity, one after another in that closed-door setting, express the view that these sanctions have to be tough and rigorous to change behavior. And so the waiver language that we will have in this bill is very much alike the provisions that have existed in past similar measures that give the president the ability to act in the national security, but also provide congressional oversight. Mm-hmm. And I think that kind of assurance to my Democratic colleagues is very important. But what is most important, I think, at this moment is our unity. Senator Graham and I, Republican and Democrat coming together, the European leaders with diverse views, also in unity, and we want to make use of the seized assets, again, in a unified way. I think a multifaceted approach here is the only way to bring Putin to the table, because he's a thug, he understands only force.
But just to follow up on that,
Yeah, I don't care. Jeffrey Epstein's accomplice, Ghislaine, is it Ghislaine Maxwell, is ready to reveal truth of the pedophile client list, says insiders. So why are Republicans blocking her? He's willing to speak in front of Congress about the Epstein files, sources tell Daily Mail. Despite the rumors, Ghislaine was never offered any kind of plea deal. She would be more than happy to sit before Congress to tell her story. No one from the government has ever asked her to share what she knows. She remains the only person to be jailed in connection to Epstein, and she would welcome the chance to tell the American public the truth. Wow. Bondi fires our personal ethics chief as DOJ purge continues. Attorney General Pam Bondi has fired her personal ethics advisor, removing the Justice Department's top official responsible for counseling the most senior political appointees. According to two people familiar with the move, Joseph Terrell, a career attorney who'd spent nearly 20 years at the department, received a termination letter from Bondi, July 11th, that didn't state a reason for his immediate removal from federal service. Similar to notices the Trump administration has sent to dozens of other DOJ civil servants. Bondi cited Article 2 of the Constitution, which concerns presidential powers, the sources said. Cute. Jesus fucking Christ.
Do you think the campaign was hard? Do you think what President Trump went through was hard? And it was.
We saw this yesterday.
The road ahead will not be easy. I can attest personally that in my work as the Director of National Intelligence, the deep state is fighting us every step of the way. And it exists within every single federal agency. And so I feel the same frustration that I see many of you expressing on X or in different platforms about why aren't things going faster? Why aren't we getting results more quickly? I feel this frustration every single day. We are pushing hard. Know that they are pushing hard back.
When I lie.
I would give Trump an F in the last month on his handling of the Epstein case. Everything they've done has created a giant Streisand effect. That said, though, he made a point in a Truth Social post yesterday that the Epstein file has been controlled by the Democrats, and only what they want to be known is going to be in the file, just like Russiagate and all the other hoaxes. I had always pointed out that they could delete anything they didn't want to be seen, but what about adding things that they wanted to be seen? FBI reports, not any real evidence, but things that spin it. And that's what Trump said yesterday. So I'm not in the business of being an apologist for Trump. I've been a major critic. But this has to be investigated. This has to be looked at very, very deeply. I did a big live stream earlier today that is very, very important. We're going to be going over more. And I want to respond to how Trump has fumbled this, but also want to respond to how I think he should handle it, all coming up here today. But this is a big deal. As Bannon said, we could lose 40 seats in the House with this fiasco if this continues, because unlike the Democrats, we have morals and we don't become complicit in cover-ups. But is there a cover-up? What's happening? We're going to figure it all out together as we work in every single angle of it. Be sure to follow me on next for all Jones. Be sure to watch the live stream I just did, because it's so incredibly important.
Yeah, a lot of these people were obsessed with the Epstein stuff. Some of them have turned. Cat Turd is one of them. There's another person, I think, who was a famous Twitter account who also was like, no, Epstein actually doesn't matter. I don't even know who this person is. We should know. Should be an unmasking of this account. Oh, God. Are they trying to escort him off stage? Oh, no. If Biden did this, by the way, this would be another evidence of senility, by the way. We know who Cat Turd is. Oh, was that account unmasked? Nice. 60 years old? Holy shit. He killed his cat, ironically.
Well, as you know, a lot of economists say that the inflation will be coming, and that there were certain.
Oh, let me grab a Red Bull in a sec.
A lot of imports that were brought in the anticipation that tariffs would be placed. But let me ask you about one new set of tariffs that he announced on Brazil. 50% new tariff on Brazil. Brazil had a $6.8 billion surplus last year. In fact, the U.S. hasn't had a trade deficit with Brazil since 2007. I mean, almost 2 decades. So why are we putting a punishing 50% tariff on Brazil?
Well, bottom line is the president has been very frustrated with negotiations with Brazil and also with the actions of Brazil. In the end, though, we're trying to put America first. I think that a lot of people, when I'm talking to negotiators from other countries, at some point they'll say, what did we do wrong? And what I'm trying to get, the message we're all trying to get across is this.
What did he just say? We've been frustrated with Brazil? Is that all he said?
In the end, very frustrated with negotiations with Brazil and also with the actions of Brazil. In the end, though, we're trying to put America first. I think that a lot of people, when I'm talking to negotiators from other countries, at some point they'll say, what did we do wrong? And what I'm trying to get, the message we're all trying to get across is this is about America getting itself ready for the golden age by getting our house in order, by getting our tariff and trade policy and tax policy exactly where it needs to be for a golden age. And
like, how fucking retarded does this guy sound? Like, imagine you're like at a negotiating table and you're some fucking retard that spent his whole life, you know, being educated and doing trade deals, and you're sitting across some fucking retard, some maggot dipshit, and you're like, all right, so we have in front of us, you know, like a total list of subsidiaries, tariffs, all these things we want to discuss. So what are we going to do? We've got to make America great for the golden age. Like, what do you even say?
Normally, it's not necessarily about a specific country, but with Brazil, it is. Their actions have shocked the president at times, and he's made them clear about that.
But I don't understand how you're saying it's about America, because the president has made it quite clear that what he's upset about is how the Brazilian Supreme Court has handled the criminal case involving former President Bolsonaro.
I'm agreeing with you. What I'm saying is that what I've been saying with most countries was that it's really about us getting the tariffs in order, and I think that this tariff for Brazil is a lot higher because of the president's frustration with Bolsonaro. And the fact that
you know that's like a sanction, right? So we're enacting an aggressive trade policy to try to force some kind of domestic change in how they're litigating the case against Bolsonaro. Isn't that kind of like...
Bolsonaro himself, you know, anyway.
But can you explain to me, because I find it confusing here, on what authority does the president have to impose tariffs on a country because he doesn't like what that country's judicial system is handling in a specific case?
Congratulations.
I mean, how
if
is
he
that?
thinks it's a national defense emergency, or if he thinks it's a national security.
Oh, because everything is a national defense emergency. LOL. Everything's a national defense emergency. You know what? That Redditor was wrong. I would defend Gallows, okay? That's the actual answer. I hope so, dude. Fuck these. I'll fuck all these people.
Security threat that he has the authority under AIPA.
So how is it a national security threat that, you know, how Brazil is handling a criminal case against this former president?
Well, that's not the only thing. That's not the only thing. I mean,
so what is it? I mean, I've asked what it is. I mean, it seems that that's what President Trump's talking about. He's talking about his anger and his frustration. He's been quite candid about it with the Bolsonaro case.
Right. Well, the bottom line is that what we're doing absolutely collectively across every country is we're onshoring production in the U.S. to reduce the national emergency that is that we have a massive trade deficit that's putting it at risk should we need production in the U.S. because of a national security crisis. And this is part of an overall strategy to do that.
But again, as we've just established, we have a trade surplus with Brazil, not a deficit. And we've had a surplus with Brazil for 18 years.
Suspicion and what it actually means on the ground when it comes to ICE detaining people. You said in an interview this week that reasonable suspicion can be based on, quote, the location, their occupation, their physical appearance, their actions. What about an individual's physical appearance would give immigration agents, quote, reasonable suspicion that they might be in the U.S. illegally?
Like if they're holding a sign saying, I am an illegal immigrant? Hello?
Well, first of all, let me be clear. Physical description can't be the sole factor to give you reasonable suspicion. As I said in the interview, it's articulable facts with an S. So appearance can be just one. For instance, if someone has MS-13 tattoo on their face, that may be one factor to add to other factors to raise reasonable suspicion. I want to be clear about that again because my words are taken out of context.
Oh my God, does he have a law enforcement background? Articulatable, that's the phrase, articulatable facts is the standard for reasonable suspicion to detain somebody for an investigation. I've never heard somebody say that outside of a law enforcement background.
Physical description.
I don't know what his background is, but
can't be the sole factor to give you reasonable suspicion. As I said in the interview, it's
and he just said reasonable suspicion.
Articulable facts with an S. So appearance can be just one. For instance, if someone has an MS-13 tattoo on their face, that may be one factor to add to other factors to raise reasonable suspicion. I want to be clear about that again because my words.
Is that for what? I don't know what the standards would be for immigration. I can't even speak to that. I can sit here and act shocked, but I really don't know what what would give you reasonable suspicion to conduct a background check or an immigration enforcement action. I have no idea.
Words are taken out of context. Physical.
Can you explain what a trade surplus is? Yes. So trade surplus is the other guy has more than you have. So like when I put my dick in your mom and I leave her full of cum, I've surplused her shit. So she has a surplus with me because she's got more of my cum inside of her, and I have less. I have a cum deficit for my balls.
Physical description cannot be the sole reason to detain and question somebody. That can't be the sole reason to raise reasonable suspicion. It's a myriad of factors, and I can sit here for the next half hour and give you all the factors. So every officer, every situation is different. But I can tell you this, every ICE officer goes through Fourth Amendment training every 6 months and reminded what their authorities are for arrest, detention, and questioning. So the officers are very well trained. So I look forward to DOJ litigating this judge's decision, because I think she's making this...
It's articulable, not articulatable. Articulable, okay, no,
decision while knowing what that officer knows when they get out of that vehicle to question somebody.
So what that judge, same judge in the case, said is that an individual's race or ethnicity, the language they speak or their accent, their presence at a particular location like a bus stop or a work site, or the type of work they do does not qualify as reasonable suspicions.
Well, like I said, these are factors that lead to reasonable suspicion. There's a myriad of factors. Every case is different. I'm not going to disagree with everything the judge has said, because, a location alone shouldn't have reasonable suspicion. It's a combination of articulable facts that an officer determines before he detains somebody for a short period of time and questions them. So,
okay. I mean, like a hot take. I mean, I think that's for immigration-related stuff. That's probably okay, right? If somebody is saying that, like, I think this guy's like an illegal immigrant from Sudan. And the dude he looks like he's like Chinese or something. It's like, well, probably not, right? It's like it's with a combination of factors, but I don't know what like immigration police use like in the totality like would be part of your argument, but I don't know.
In just a moment, but the New York Times is reporting that thousands of calls from flood victims to FEMA call centers went unanswered in the middle of this ongoing disaster because you didn't renew contracts to keep call center staff in place until nearly 1 week after the floods. Why did it take so long to extend those contracts?
It's just false. Those contracts were in place. Nobody,
didn't take 5 days?
No employees were off of work. Every one of them was answering calls. So false reporting, fake news, and it's discouraging. It's discouraging.
This is porn star makeup. This is like 90s porn star makeup. I'm sorry. This is just so fucking bizarre to me. I can't get over it. Jesus.
So false reporting, fake news, and it's discouraging. It's discouraging that during this time when we have such a loss of life and so many people's lives have turned upside down, that people are playing politics with this because the response time was immediate. And if you talk to anyone in Texas that was there, that was a part of this operation, they would say the federal government and President Trump immediately responded.
Just to be very clear, on July 7th, 15.9% of calls were answered. I mean, does that concern you that only 15% of calls were answered? These are people in a desperate state. FEMA, often the first call that they make, only 15% were answered on July 7th, several days after the floods.
These contracts were in place and those people were in those call centers and they were picking up the phone and answering these calls from these individuals. So that report needs to be validified. I'm not certain it's accurate, and I'm not sure where it came from. And the individuals who are giving you information out of FEMA, I'd love to have them put their names behind it, because
like you guys do when you talk about the deep state all the time.
The anonymous attacks to politicize this situation is completely wrong. I care. These emergencies need to
This auto pen, I can't even believe this is given attention. Okay. Trump's mega bill is creating a budget nightmare for states. By slashing healthcare and food assistance for low-income Americans, Republicans in Washington are passing tremendous costs onto the states, leaving local leaders from both parties grasping for ways to make up for billions in lost federal dollars. The cuts are already threatening to endanger governors' education, public safety, and disaster relief funds. When they killed the Department of Education, because that's gone now, right? they transferred, I believe, all of the student loans to the Treasury Department. But I wonder if that meant that the 10 to 15% of all the funding for all the K through 12 education across the U.S., I wonder if that's all gone now. I wonder if they have any, or if that's being funded from some other place. Do you think the out open situation is a thing because the White House aides just have Trump sign 1 million bits of paper to keep him busy? No, I think somebody said it once and he heard it and now he just repeats it indefinitely. What should Democrats do to message well on the floods? If you were a Democrat and you wanted to message effectively on the floods, you should be protesting or rioting right now to make sure that every single dead woman or dead girl is forcibly pregnancy tested to make sure that the body count is actually correct. We need to find out if any of these girls were 5 or 6 weeks pregnant, because if they were, we need to make sure that the body count is right. We don't want to leave any children, because remember, 5 or 6 weeks is enough to keep a mom's body alive indefinitely. In order to birth it, we need to make sure that the body count is correct. So that's what I would be pushing for. I would want to make sure there's autopsies or whatever types of tests done on all of these people, 100%. The money is still appropriated from Congress, so while firing on folks not being there make it a failed institution, the money will still be used, in my opinion, to give to parents to homeschool or states that teach history the Trump way. I wish I was kidding. I don't know if it will be, though, because doesn't the Department of Education, are they the ones who doled that money out? I'm sure it's appropriated, but now who's it being channeled or funneled through? That would be a good tweet, Drew. I shouldn't be tweeting right now. I'm just super grumpy. Actually, you know what? It's fucking boring as fuck for most of you guys, I understand. I actually really like this COVID shit. You know what I've complained about is that conservatives are crying about, or not crying about, but conservatives keep saying all the conspiracy theories are true. I'm going to just spend the next few months on my stream going through all the conspiracy theories, and then I will be the conspiracy theory debater on any of these fucking platforms I go on. That's what maybe we'll do that. Okay, let me be upset. All right. American beaten to death by Israeli settlers in the West Bank. Holy fucking shit.
This Palestinian village in the West Bank is mourning two of their own. One was a young American. 20-year-old Saifullah Musalet, born in Florida and visiting relatives, was beaten to death Friday by Israeli settlers, his family said. In a post online, Musalet's family said settlers blocked the ambulance and paramedics from providing life-saving aid for several hours.
What city?
Officials said a second Palestinian man was shot dead. The State Department confirmed the death of an American and offered its condolences to the man's family. Israeli police said they were looking into the incident. The deaths come amidst a surge of settler violence against Palestinians throughout the West Bank, trying to force Palestinians out. Until 2 weeks ago, this tiny hamlet of Al Muwarajat was home to a few hundred Bedouin herders. We visited in May just as settlers were amidst a surge of settler violence against looking into the incident. The deaths come amidst a surge of settler violence against Palestinians throughout the West Bank.
Combat the old way, with the old rules. We got sticks and rocks, baby.
The deaths come amidst a surge of settler violence against Palestinians.
And a dog.
Palestinians throughout the West Bank, trying to force Palestinians out. Until 2 weeks ago, this tiny hamlet of Al Muwarajat was home to a few hundred Bedouin herders. We visited in May just as settlers were ramping up their attacks. Israeli Amir Pansky works for an Israeli organization that monitors settler harassment.
And their goal is to push them out of this area.
By what? By simply harassment?
By violence, harassing.
Are there? I actually didn't know that. Dude, I thought Bedouins were mainly in the Negev. Are there Bedouins that live in the West Bank? There might be. I mean, I imagine there are. If they're pushing them out of there.
Attacking.
So this was the village mosque. This is where everybody came to pray until February. It's when nearby settlers came and burned it down. But the settlers weren't finished. The regular harassment continued for months until village residents said the settlers pitched a tent inside the village on July 2nd, brought their animals to graze, and stole from the...
What is this?
Pitched a tent inside the village on July 2nd, brought their animals to graze, and stole from the community. When they were drinking in the house and taking off their clothes, Alia said, we decided we had to leave. But with settler violence increasing, there are few safe places left for them to go.
Why can't why can't the Palestinians just attack them on like a fucking Friday night? Are they stupid? Is Israel allowed to fight? Are Jews allowed to fight on the Sabbath?
Matt Bradley, NBC News, Al Muwarajat in the occupied West Bank.
One dealer lets you keep your cash till next year.
Let's see, what do we have? WatchPeopleDie.tv. Okay. Palestinian terrorist from the United States is eliminated after throwing rocks at Jews. Palestinian terrorist. That's a title. Okay. Ooh, what do we got? Whoosh, threw a rock. Oh my God. He's a goddamn rock thrower. They're all running. I don't know why. Did they get shot at? We got drone footage. Oh my God, they're on the road. If I'm supposed to be able to make anything out from this, I absolutely cannot. What about this? We got a shaky camera looking at some rocks. The voice of a Jewish child tickles our ears. Okay, pictures of a bloody head. Last Friday afternoon, okay, what is the post on this? Last Friday afternoon, dozens of terrorists and Arab rioters attacked a small group of Jewish shepherds with stones and slingshots near the settlement of Adaret in the Binyamin region. They burned and destroyed equipment and a Tanakh, or Bible, and injured two of the shepherds. The Arabs were accompanied by well-known, far-left, anarchist activists. Wow. Let's see. This is where are my Israeli scholars at? Is this a deep settlement? This looks like this looks like one of those ones that are deep in there. Would you say this qualifies? So the green line is this dotted line back here. any settlers that live like deep into the West Bank, these are always guaranteed to be your most subhuman, inbred, degenerate, fucking terrorist losers. Like, they split their time 33 between sleep, fucking their own children, and then running around and hoping to God, like they're cry bullies, hoping to God that they can get into a fight with an Arab, and then they'll pick up their phone and they'll call the IDF to come and bail them out fucking immediately. That's why they set up tents and bring their animals and shit to camp in the middle of some fucking Arab village, is because they know that if they do it, they can draw aggro and then bring the IDF over to basically kill anybody that fucks their shit up. Assuming this, it looks in most settlements, most settler people, regardless of how you feel about settlers one way or another, like the vast majority of settlers live near the Green Line, which is where it's just like the border right here between the pre-captured territory from when Jordan used to own it for the West Bank. So a lot of them live right over the Green Line, but most of the settlements here. But sometimes there will be settlements that are like deep in, and if you're that deep in, it's because you want to go fuck shit up. You want to go and harass some people. What do we have over here? Late Friday afternoon, blah, blah, blah. Whoever made this post on this, to watch people die. I don't know if this website is normally like pro-Israeli or not though, but. Upon the arrival of the forces, a gas balloon exploded near them, placed by the Arab rioters inside a bonfire they had lit. There were no casualties from the explosion. Simultaneously, in response to the terrorist and rioter attack, Jewish activists were called to the area, leading to friction between them and the rioters, who continued throwing stones. Hours after the incident ended, the Arabs reported 2 fatalities. Hours after, claiming the 2 Arabs were killed during the events. Hamas issued statements of mourning and incitement, calling the deceased martyr fighters. They probably do that with every Palestinian who dies. Jesus Christ. Oh, that dude is dead.
اسمعيني فلقاء الله حان طاب في قلبي حنيني للفرادس والوطن فوق نعشي
Dustin, I know in the past you said Palestinians have a warped sense of protection due to the world giving them free pass. Do you think that mentality extends to those who are by these places? No, I was speaking about the Palestinian political identity as a whole. I don't know if that extends to the individuals on the ground. The problem is that in the West Bank, I think you basically have like 3 main areas. You've got Area C, which is where all of the Jews still live and are like they're slowly increasing the size of that area. These areas were originally demarcated as part of the Oslo Accords in 93, 95. I believe they started in 93, and then Oslo 2 was 95, right? Yeah. Oslo 1 was 93, Oslo 2 was 95. Area C is where Jews are allowed to live. Palestinians aren't supposed to go there. Area A are supposed to be exclusively Palestinian villages under Arab control, Palestinian Authority control. In more particular, the Palestinian Authority is a government that was created as part of the Oslo Accords that's supposed to be the governing body that controls these areas. And then that government is mainly staffed by the coalition party, the PLO, the Palestinian Liberation Organization, of which Mahmoud Abbas is the head of. And then the Area B is like the in-between areas. What settlers try to do, not settlers, I'm sorry, well, some settlers. So you have like all of your, a lot of Jews will just move to these areas in the West Bank that are right over the Green Line because it's cheap. You move there, there's a ton of other Jews there. It's not like a crazy dangerous place. It's not like there's not like crazy shit going on. You just move there because it's cheap. It's easy land. Deep settlements though, sometimes people will make these settlements that are way in here. Like the one that me and Blonerbox went to was Near Nablus, there's one called Yitzhar. But these ones that are like way deep in are usually inhabited by like your more extremist radical Jews. They're the ones that are eager to fight with people who are in any of the surrounding Arab villages or Palestinian villages. And sometimes what they'll do is they'll carry like infrastructure, like tents or trailers, and they'll try to set them up someplace. And if they can get them there for long enough, then eventually they can petition the Israeli government to say, hey, look, there's like a real place, like we should make this a settlement. And sometimes, depending on how friendly the Israeli government is feeling towards the settlers or the outposters, and depending on how much, lying and bullshit they're doing, they can get these places like recognized as extensions of current settlements or as new settlements. So that's how they try to steal land from any of the Palestinian people living here. Yeah. Arabs, at least in MENA, are very liberal with who they called martyr/shaheed. We'd have people who were killed in police brutality events called shaheed, people who died in the Arab Spring called shaheed, people who, I think the term is slowly losing its religious undertone, slowly starting to get semantic creep. No, yeah, I agree 100%. That's why you have to be careful when Hamas will call every single person who dies a martyr or shaheed against Israel. So sometimes the people on the super pro-Zionist side they'll put evidence saying, oh, look, this guy was Hamas because he was like, they called him a martyr. It's like, well, no, they call all Palestinians that die against the occupiers, against Israel. They'll call all of them martyrs. You need to look for uniforms in the background or some other statement to know if they were actually part of the military, part of Hamas or not. Al-Qassam brigades. Palestinian Islamic Jihad is Al-Quds Force, I think, right? No, Al-Quds Force is the expeditionary part of the RGC. It's Al-Qassam brigades, and is it Al-Quds brigades? It's Al-Quds brigades, yeah, okay. What exactly is a settlement? Is it like a town or a village? It's like a town, city. Settlement is just a city. Usually surrounded by armored walls, if it's deep in, to protect it from surrounding Palestinian attacks. Never heard your official take on the settlements. Should they be closed, or is that too much of an ask? It's probably too much of an ask in that it's probably over the line for Israel, but I think it's a good over the line give if they want to actually have some kind of agreement with the Palestinians. I think a major concession on settlements, at least all of the ones that are like way past the green line, those have to go. Or at the very least, they're conceded to being Palestinian territory, and then if Jews want to still live there under that government, then they can do that. But the S in Ghislaine Maxwell is silent. Oh, so it's Ghislaine? Thank you.